So here we are in London with Steve Hackett. Steve, hi.
Hi there, how you doing?
So good news is, you've got 8 shows coming up with a full 41-piece orchestra.
I know.
How did that come together?
Well, originally I did a show in Buffalo, in New York State, and we had this conductor from Canada called Bradley Thatcher, and he was brilliant. He was the one who approached me first of all about working with the Buffalo Philharmonic. We did a show, we sold it out, it went like a dream, and then the idea came up. I had an idea of doing maybe one London show with orchestra, gala evening, all that sort of stuff, you know. And then Kilimanjaro and John Giddings got together and talked about it, and they came up with 6 shows up and down the country. I thought, you know, can one support that, you know, financially, enthusiastically? Are there enough people to, you know, fill those sort of places with an orchestra and all the rest? So I had a couple of sleepless nights, and I agreed to it. I thought, what the hell am I doing going out with an orchestra? You know, how can anyone make that? Are we going to founder on the same rock that ELP did at one time? But I thought, oh, what the hell? Let's go for it. I've been told, you know, you can get a break even with something like this. And then they said, yeah, we sold very well, so let's make it 8 shows. And so far, all I've agreed to is 8 shows in this country. So if we do it anywhere else, it'll have to be local orchestras, because I'm not going to ship, you know, that many people around the world. It's just not going to. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to fly. But you see, I've done guest appearances with other people's bands with orchestra, and I've been part of it. You know, the sales pitch. So we did stuff in 2 shows in Germany with orchestra. One of which was in Handel's hometown. So I found myself playing some Handel on electric guitar in Handel's birthplace, Halle. Halle Orchestra and all that, and stuff in Iceland. So we've got charts from these various places, and we thought Bradley was so good. Brad Thatcher was so good with the orchestra in Buffalo. We invited him over to be the conductor over here, because he's a real kind of enthusiast, and yeah, you need someone who's a bit of a sword fighter with this to get it all going, and he was brilliant. I said, the most difficult thing with orchestras is who says 1, 2, 3, 4, because you guys don't do it like that. It's on the nod. It confuses people greatly. Sometimes when I work with my brother, he does the classical counting. You're in, you know, and but he said, well, Brad said, we'll follow you. So Brad and his brother Steve came up with arrangements, and that's what you need. It's all it's based on the score sheet, so you have to have that.
And the arrangements themselves, are they faithfully representing the original parts from the albums, or has he gone a little bit off piste and developed the sound?
Well, no, it's the arrangements that I originally endorsed were ones that the Icelandic team had come up with. That's Topnabil, and I'd seen stuff that they'd done with John Anderson, most famously a piece called Awaken, famous Yes piece, and they did an orchestral arrangement, and the orchestral work sounded wonderful. I thought, this sounds like Smetana meets Yes. This is really, really good stuff, really golden, you know. It was absolutely lovely, and I thought, yes, I've got to work with these guys. They've approached me, and they said, having done the shows in a couple of shows in Iceland, they said, yeah, you can use these arrangements for a mere song. So I hope that answers some of the question.
And well, it leads us very nicely into, you've got a great catalogue of work, both the Genesis and the solo material. How do you go about picking which songs to play with the orchestra? And was it all your choice, or did Bradley have an influence on the set?
Well, the idea was we would do a set mainly based on classic Genesis, and there'd be some of mine in there. There's probably quite a few, but it's sold as a Genesis show. And he said, well, is there, you know, we can squeeze in another one, another arrangement that we haven't got yet. Is there something you would like to do? So I thought of something from the last album, Night Siren, a track called El Nino, which is very orchestral. So they did an arrangement of that, and I thought there ought to be one more. We're doing the second half of Shadow of the Hierophant with the 2 London shows. Amanda will be with us, so we can do the full-length thing, Amanda Lehman, that is. And so we thought it would be a little strange if the first half kicks off with orchestral sounding keyboards, but then it becomes the real thing in the second half. So I asked them if they do that as well. So it grows bit by bit, you know. It's like, oh, could you do a bit of this? Could you do a bit of that? I'd love to do more, you know. The sky's the limit, really. You know, I can think of one other thing I would like to have done, but we didn't get around to it this time. But it means that in the future I will have to do that, whether it's live or on record. Everything I do tends to have a certain amount of orchestra in mind, unless I'm just doing an album purely of nylon guitar pieces and, you know, doing that sort of that guitar recital thing. Yeah, if it's rock, always at the back of my mind, I think. Rock becomes more interesting when Queen Mary's worth of great musicians in tow and can do wonderful things with strings and all the rest, strings and bows and and all the rest. I just love orchestras, and I don't feel threatened. I no longer feel threatened about the idea of working with them. First time I ever worked with an orchestra live was London Chamber Orchestra, incredible virtuosos, and we were playing some Vivaldi. And I thought, all these guys are reading it, and I was doing it, with memory. We were doing it at the Queen Elizabeth Hall, and I came off stage like this, thinking, yeah, got it right. I had to have therapy. I visited a Harley Street hypnotist, therapist, to get me over stage fright after that. Seriously. But all those feelings of inadequacy have gone away now. Like the famous joke about, I can't go into that, about the guy who no longer feels embarrassed about various things. One thing I've learned about the business is that never mind about being perfect, you've got to be a sort of ham and cheese sandwich, and the secret is to try and be a hot ham if you can. So I have a much less kind of in the early days I used to worry every time there was a bump, like, oh wait a minute, fail me, give me the guillotine. Now I realise it's not about fluffs, it's about being up there enjoying it. If you're up there enjoying it, that's what communicates. So it's the spirit running for everything, never mind about the form. So I'm looking forward to it tremendously.
So playing with orchestra, has it brought to mind an instrument you would have loved to have played, not playing the guitar? Is there one you always have been, oboe player or bassoon player?
Well, it's a funny thing, you know, as a young player, or a young aspiring player, I should say, I really only listened to guitar. When I was listening to Duane Eddy's Because They're Young and loving it, actually I was probably listening to the strings as much as the guitar. But someone said to me, oh, you know, that's got a really good beat, isn't it? You know, the in-sync snare drum and all that. I hadn't really heard that, because I was so locked into what was to become my own area of obsession. Down the line, you start to break down your own personal prejudice, and you come to realise that with the orchestral instruments, or any instrument anywhere in the world, what first of all you think is something's useless, like, you know, the rain stick. And I thought, well, I'm going to use a rain stick on. How does that relate to to rock and roll, and I found out that yes it does, and it's really marvellous, and it has a number of uses. It all depends on who's playing the thing. You can use it like a small shaker, or like this thing, creating the sound of surf or rain, and even the humble triangle. Yes, Tchaikovsky uses it wonderfully. You know, with these big crescendos that's ringing away, and the temps are all rolling away. You got thunder, and you got the thing on the top, and so there's no such thing as a useless instrument. I've become a fan of it all, and yes, I wish I could play violin. You know, Anna Sophie Mutter, wonderful. Yehudi Menuhin, wonderful. But you hear cello. Fairly recently at Genesis too, I met Stephen Isserlis, who is a wonderful cellist. Wouldn't it be great to be able to do it all? Yes, sing, drum, dance. Hang on, sounds like Phil Collins. I've already worked with him. Yeah.
But the one instrument you've not mentioned is the harmonica, because you're a great harmonica player.
Thank you.
If you remember, Blues for the Feeling. Fantastic album.
I'm glad you like that. The humble harmonica is an extraordinarily versatile instrument, and I've just done an album where it features on one track a little bit of harmonica, but I've finally gotten to the point where I could get the harmonica to do what I wanted it to do. If you can get the vibrato right, if you can get the cupping right, and if you can get the distortion right, you've got several instruments in one there. You know, the distorted harmonica, as played by Little Walter or Paul Butterfield. A lot of people mistake it for guitar or trumpet. It's a fantastically versatile sound instrument. And I got to spend a little bit of time with Larry Adler, luckily enough, and I asked him how to get octaves. And he said, yeah, you do it with your tongue, you lay the tongue over the notes that you don't want to access. And so I've always been self-taught. I took things from Johnny Marrs, a marvellous black blues harmonica player, and he had fantastic vibrato. And I said, how do you get that vibrato? And he said, by hand. No, what? By hand? Don't do that. He says, by pulling it, you're inhaling and you're going like this with it. So it's still in your mouth. Quick harmonica lesson. Okay. How do you bend a note on the harmonica? You pucker up like a whistler. You isolate your note, and then you do this sort of Eeyore kind of thing. And that makes the note go strangely enough. And you get vibrato like that. And I was practicing it from the age of 2. I got into the sort of the chromatic stuff. So I'm going down harmonica lane, memory lane here. Morton Fraser's harmonica gang and stuff from the 1950s black and white TV, Billy Cotton Band Show, all that stuff. There was a lot of harmonica around at that time, Dixon of Doc Green, all of that. But it was blues harmonica. First I ever heard was, I think it was either Brian Jones or Mick, doing harmonica on those early Stones things, little by little, and the opening notes are on harmonica. I think, it sounds like this instrument from hell. It's the caverns of hell are being opened mystically up into this wonderful, sensuous, frightening, spooky thing that some of the blues has. See, people are always like, well, why blues? Isn't that very simple? It's just 3 chords, and proggers don't get it with that. But it's an area that soloists love. Harmonica players, guitarists, singers. We did a tribute a while back, Jack Bruce's son Malcolm at the Shepherd's Bush Empire.
Yes, was that?
Oh, you were there, of course. And Nathan James, who I saw last night at the Prog Awards, was singing Spoonful. What a fabulous voice he's got. And somehow it's all one, isn't it? For musicians, we don't draw the distinction between, we all make a noise for a living, so whether it's Bach writing thousands of things that he probably never even played himself, and the rest of us struggle to get our fingers around. Or whether it's, yes, the humble harmonica player. Yes.
If you trace back to bands like Jethro Tull, they came out of a blues group, and there's still blues elements in early albums like that, and in Mark's playing, for example.
Yes, and also I was thinking Pink Floyd, who essentially it's all the Dorian scale. It's the blues scale. There's something about guitar doing that, the blues scale, that makes it sound most authentic. It's almost an avoidance of harmony, but it doesn't mean that it's robbed of passion.
So is there a concerto for harmonica and orchestra in Steve?
Oh, wow. What a challenge that would be. That would be something, wouldn't it? Yeah, Gershwin, the nearest thing would be watching Larry Adler, and I was privileged to be there on one evening when he went into what I think was his party piece. He did Rhapsody in Blue, one hand on the piano and one hand on the harmonica, and of course it's pure authenticity because you've got the roots of the harmonica and you've got the harmony of piano. So yes, I'll think about that one. I'll let you know.
So the tour kicks off, the 8-day tour kicks off the 1st of October in Nottingham, I think, and then goes all the way through the Palladium on the 11th.
Yeah.
So we're really looking forward to that. You've got quite a few other things going on, which I'm going to ask you about.
Yes.
So the reissues, you've got, let me look down here, Broken Skies, Outspread Wings is the phenomenal type for what's a really good value package. You've got 6 albums, a couple of DVDs. So talk to me about the choice of albums and the choice of live show that's in there.
Well, I think of it as really kind of mid-period because we had a box set out a couple of years back which concentrated on the charisma years really, and then after that I think I ended up being signed to a zillion different record companies, and or even not signed to a zillion record companies. So anyone who's going through that hell of can't find anyone who'll sign a contract with me. I've been through those wilderness years, and so much of these albums, the mid-period stuff, centres on that, when it was harder to get deals, but sometimes I'd get deals and sometimes they'd be a big hit and sometimes it would be something that just escaped. But all of that has to be fought through, It's the loneliness of the long distance, I don't know, musician, progger, whatever you want to call it. So it's hugely varied, from blues to progressive to every influence under the sun. What would you call it? Post-industrial collusion, a bit of collision, bit of fusion, romantic. I think I'm still probably romantic. So it covers a lot of things. I think I was trying to be an awful lot of artists at the same time. See, I think what was marvellous about the Beatles, having been a huge fan, is that there were times when I'd hear stuff on the radio and didn't know who it was, only to find out later it was the Beatles. I Am the Walrus being the case in question. So I always thought it was incumbent upon anyone who did records to try and be versatile enough so that people wouldn't go, that's Fleetwood Mac. No. The idea is, I don't know who that is, but I like it. That's the audience that I've always been chasing, and that's got me into a lot of trouble because it's meant that I've sometimes done acoustic classical guitar albums and bits of folk and bits of blues and jack of all trades, master of none. But at least it's broadened me, and I haven't been, what's the word? The phrase that comes to mind, risk averse. No, I am not risk averse. I think that risk is is all important. Too much safety, too much success. For God's sake, guard against that, because unless you're taking chances, you're not going to go out there. So these days, I work with Indian musicians, Israeli, Palestinian, people from Iceland, from Azerbaijan, and it all makes such a rich mixture, because you hear something and go, what's that? Is that Armenian duduk, or does it just sound like a strange sax player? What am I hearing there? So, and the other thing I find out is that even guys that I work with play instruments that I didn't know they had. Like Rob just told me he had this Indian flute that he can do bends on it. That's the sound I wanted. I love that sort of slightly, mellifluous kind of creeping up on you when you least expect it, sensuous things sneaking through, stroking you. I love all of that. So you said you could do that? I didn't know you could do it. I would have had it on this album. Take it on the next album. Touch wood, I'm still here, still be doing it. Yeah, I've just done a new album. I'm so in love with it. It's honeymoon period at the moment.
So I was going to get on to the new album. So Night Siren, I think most people agree it's a really, really strong album, and I would say it's probably the best one you've done in a long time.
Cool, thank you.
And it features a lot of world musicians that are very eclectic. You've got your West East, you've got a lot of stuff on there. The new album, is do you draw a line between the two?
I'd say it's the idea of music without prejudice. It's certainly not music without props, which I used to call the acoustic stuff before Unplugged became fashionable. But no, I very much am dependent on a number of performances from a number of wonderful people. So I think there comes that moment where you sit back and let other people be heroes. The moments of great silence I can enjoy from myself. I can enjoy just as much as playing yourself. There's only so much amount of self-congratulation that you can award yourself. And to hear people like, for instance, the McBroom sisters, who worked with Pink Floyd, two black girls who've got the most amazing voices. From Selena Jones, it's that range of wonderfully deep and rich kind of contralto to sort of tenor voice. No, that's the wrong word, wouldn't it? That would be wrong. Maybe it's mezzo soprano. I don't know. Classical divisions don't really apply, but they're so powerful. They've worked on, I think, the last Pink Floyd 4 albums and tours with Floyd and with David Gilmour, and to work with that so that things take on a gospel feel, and to use choral stuff. We've got stuff in Latin on the album that sounds a bit like Queen meets the Pope. So I'm thrilled to do things that are on the extreme, but it's rock really on this album. Rock in the broadest sense of the word.
Could I ask you, are there any leftover tracks from the work you did with Chris Squire influenced or directly involved in any recording?
Well, I think much of what I do is influenced by Chris. I think we worked together sufficiently to say that we influenced each other. There was an influence that goes right back to the days of when Genesis and Yes listened to each other. And I did get to work with a number of people from Yes, the late great Pete Banks, Steve Howe, of course, who's become divine overnight.
Yes, I heard.
The Prog God Award. Several others, Bill Bruford. So the ranks there was something that happened around the ranks of Genesis, and Yes, and King Crimson, lots of pals from Crimson that I worked with. Ooh, you know, I think we've got a lot to feel proud of with the British scene. I won't even use the word progressive, the prog scene, and beyond that, a lot in British music to feel very, very, very proud of. Must be something to do with the water or the weather, but I think that American music tends to be more, and very good as it's been, hugely influential on British music. It tends to be more insular. It tends to be, you know, heading towards the boogie factor remains paramount with that. Whereas I think over here we had one ear on Beethoven, one ear on Paul Butterfield, and beyond. So we were more eclectic. We were prepared to take on board Indian influences and go east, young man. Yeah, and I'm trying to take the spirit of that onwards, so that I don't always do what's expected of a progressive musician. Come up with impenetrable equations and impossible time signatures. Occasionally, yes, they've got to be. You know, how do you count that one? You know, that sort of stuff. Ruin a perfectly good toe tapper with a couple of bars of something that's impossible. But that's not the be all and end all for me. So I guess it never really ends. I don't know how to shut up. Really, that's the trouble.
And so we can expect this new work next year.
Yeah, beginning of next year, I'd say. Yeah.
And finally, I read that you're involved in a recording for charity called Harmony for Elephants. That is.
Yeah.
And it looks like Amanda's involved, Roger's involved.
Yes.
There's quite a casting, and Phillips as well.
Yes, and Phillips. So there's a little bit of the ex-Genesis contingent. There are a number of very, very talented people on it. It was really spearheaded by a wonderfully talented photographer called Leslie Wood, who she stands in front of charging rhino in order to get the perfect shot, and the most extraordinary stuff. She seems to have no fear. She's still with us, thank God, and she took some marvellous pictures of elephants who are disappearing at an extraordinary rate, if you believe the figures. One lovely shot in a book that she did, an accompanying book, where there's an elephant and you can see it's standing right next to a tree, and the bark of the tree and the way the textures flow looks the same as the skin on the elephant, and so you can see this kind of, you know, this mythical creature, and it's just brilliant. She takes the most brilliant pictures, and she was the one who spearheaded this thing, Harmony for Elephants, and I believe it's doing very well. I hope it goes all the way. The response has been very good to it so far.
Steve, that's fantastic. So just to recap, you've got your tour with 41-piece orchestra starting on the 1st of October through to the 11th, where you land at the Palladium.
Yep.
You've got the Broken Skies compilation, the box with 6 CDs, charting 22 years in your solo career, and a couple of DVDs. And then we're looking forward to a new album in the next year.
Yeah,
fantastic.
All of that, more tours, Yes.
It's always a pleasure talking to you,
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you one of those dates soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
Cheers. All the best.